All right. Hello, everybody. Dr. Joe Vertino, spiritual guide, author, musician, and Reiki master healer, Usui, here today with you, for you. Angel blessings. So, this is my podcast right now, as I've been saying today to people online. Today, this Sunday of our time, which is actually it's a serious phrase, but it's because it's church day and it's such an elegant Catholic thing for this Sunday of our time. And it reminds me of visiting Catholic monasteries. But anyways, yeah, at this time of I guess you could say of all of the eons, we're in 2025, March 2nd, 2025, Sunday. I'm over here in USA in Western New York in a place called Angola near the beach, near Point Breeze, near Buffalo, New York. And we're going to talk today on not my only podcast, and preferably not my only podcast with my new friend, I guess, so to speak, Miss Lenka Graner, if that's how you say that, HMD, Miss Lenka Graner HMD. And our topic is sexuality, parentheses, and relationships, in parentheses. But yes, hi, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I'm in.
Hi, Joseph. How are you today?
Good.
Good. Yeah, I'm also very happy to be here, and so glad that we're doing this because we've been planning this for a few years. When I was still living in Bali, right? And so we were talking, and we just connected really well. Our energies just blended, connected so well. I remember so clearly, like we just saw each other, and like you were in the States as you are now, and I was in Bali, so like living that kind of spirituality, that Eastern, like I also learned Reiki in Korea, and then I visited Japan as well. So just like having that Asian experience was just so beautiful, and like that whole like Buddha enlightenment, oneness, principle. I really enjoy that. So it was just such a pleasure and joy to connect with someone like from out west, like from America, who's also into the same things as I am. Because I spent a lot of time in Canada. I lived there for like 20 plus years, and then Europe as well. So it's nice to get that blend of like West meets East, East meets West, and also this male and female, connection that we have. So
Yes.
yeah, it's just feels very complete. So it's very nice.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, uh, I have been thinking in that way recently. Um, there's a lovely spiritual guide named Matt Kahn, who I'm very familiar with, and I've noticed that throughout his years, and he's considerably older than me, and I would pray that he wouldn't be like upset by that or anything, or because maybe who knows, you get competitive, or when you're in the same field and he's really really good and I'm good, and that's a good thing, but I don't know. But what I remember. And my point of this is what you just said: the masculine and feminine energies coming together in context of us having different bodies and being different souls. But so what that translates as is this experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm a man and you're a woman, and in that way, I feel that that's a very important point in the sense that, well, we're meant to not be confused, so
Mm-hmm.
that helps with ending some confusion. Like,
Yeah,
for example, if someone's saying if they got their feathers ruffled, well, I would say that's not as good as if your feathers weren't ruffled. And the fact of the matter is that this is a man and that is a woman, and that should be a clear, a clear thing. We should be kind of in a more lighter place about that fact. And I guess, yeah. So that's just something that I wanted to, I guess, kind of just agree with you on.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And the whole point is actually that it's really nice that we're entering this area because like to unite the masculine and feminine within. That's the whole principle and the whole idea um, behind it in the heart, and then like having this like orgasmic bliss already within yourself, and that's when you start to attract it, to be like really familiar and accepting of your own feminine and masculine within. Because even in past lives, like I know I was a man in a lot of my past lives, and now I'm a woman, and I'm just very comfortable with men in this life. I just enjoy like the male presence and company, and I've always like all my life just really connected well with men. So, but like define, and I also love my feminine side. That's why like spending a lot of time in Asia was so good for me to like replenish my feminine, because they're really good at honoring the sacred, like the divine feminine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like so healing, like to like wear more dresses, and, to take care of yourself, to just like really treasure the fact that your feminine, body, right? Like to take care of your feminine side, take baths and like do your hair, do like get your nails done, get massages, pampering and relaxing, just enjoying like pleasureful moments, like, like walking around, taking walks in the rice fields, forest, all that stuff. So, and then, like when you're actually like in that blissful state within, that's your perfect time to attract your partner as well. Because once you know who you are, then you attract your perfect counterpart on the outside as well. Do you agree?
Well, I guess in that way, I think, obviously, if we're talking about sexuality and relationships, the whole
Yeah.
shebang
Yeah.
is about that.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
obviously, yes. So obviously, yeah, but I would say, I guess, to give maybe a little bit of criticism, in there, that basically that us understanding ourself shouldn't go, well, no, that's the same thing you're saying. But yeah, I was going to say, in that way of providing wisdom. So providing wisdom on it, I guess, would be, yeah, I guess, making sure that you're still in alignment with the goodness that was in you, right? That was there before you kind of stepped foot into the unknown, right? Terrain of a very distinct future path of relationships, commitment, the opposite sex, attraction, mating, and then understanding that you are the person taking every step in that terrain that was heretofore unknown.
Yeah.
So I guess in that kind of way, that my kind of little humble kind of prayer in there is basically that you don't lose your footing, because the same footing that was there earlier in life that was powerful, I guess that's another prayer, that before people, that they have that experience and they get used to, what I'm basically saying is getting used to yourself enough before you go into that terrain, so that you don't have lines blurred that aren't supposed to be blurred, because we can't control, it's unknown, it's the future, we can't control any of it, right? That's a psychological disease, so to speak, if we are in that kind of frame of mind consistently, right? And we're kind of, that place. So before we go into that terrain, which is only ever our fault to enter into it, no matter what, which we don't have to, so to speak, ever. How do we know that we don't have to? There's monks, there's nuns, like I mentioned about this Sunday of our time, right? And Catholicism, that monks have no business ever in that terrain of, I guess, what could seem like a jungle, like wild, right? To use another geological term. But it's something in that way that is utterly personal and individual. And the whole point of the terrain is the personal and individual. Right? So I guess my prayer is you don't lose sight of what mattered and what you're grounded in and founded in as an individual. So to me, in that way, I guess continuity of growth would be the thing.
Yeah.
So does that make sense? Yeah, that's all I wanted to say on that. But I can't wait to hear what more you have to say.
Yeah, right. I just remembered like the main, like whenever I talk about this topic, which is like really interesting, like when I was really thinking about this, like, like we want to unite, like in relationships and sexuality, like it's about union, right? And this like bliss, like this ecstasy, that's the whole point that we want to achieve, right? That's why, we attract each other, like feminine, masculine, like within, and on the other, like looking for that, on the like inside and outward.
Yeah.
Because like we want to achieve this bliss and this orgasm, right? And like children are orgasm, right? Like they're the product, they're the fruit of our sexuality, basically, right? And it's like, like coming from heaven, it's like this blissful state. So that's what we're really after in like relationships and sexuality, like this blissful state. And like you're speaking about monks and stuff, and they're able to achieve this like with other methods, like for example, breath work. Even like with my clients, I also do like a lot of breath work and positive affirmations to get into like this heightened state, like even within, like with just yourself, just your body, um, can get into like these like orgasmic states, right? That you want to, then you're like perfectly capable of achieving that with your partner, like through tantric work, because you're already in this blissful state within like yourself, and then you share that with your partner, and you even like bring them, or if they're ready, if they're already doing that as well, that's even better.
Mhm.
um, if
Yeah.
you have like a compatible partner like that, but you are basically like just bringing bliss like from yourself to each other and like reaching it together. And of course, like there's um like if that's desired or not, or whatever happens, like it's a creative force, it's a creative energy. It has to do with your sacral energy. It has to do with your womb, of course, your like sexual organs and arousal, and then like even a birth of a child, right? So that's like a new human comes into being, like into this world, through that. So that's the creative force, and it's like the life-giving force, which is also Reiki. Like you can achieve this through breath work, you can achieve this through Reiki energy. And that's why there are like many methods to reach this state. And one of them is sex. But like many times people just think that they want sex like to reach this like blissful state, but there are many ways to get there. And I know from my experience, when you're just like loving yourself, like you're in that self-love, and um, like that genuine, very clean and pure, like divine love, like within yourself. Like you can just connect to everything around you, like nature as well, and like feel one with like everything, the trees, flowers, plants, the people around you, the sky and the clouds. And, so you are at one with everything. And yeah, that's the basically the idea, that you're a lot of people think that you just need a partner, like a romantic partner, for that. But then that happens, but you can easily get not fulfilled, like unfulfilled, through that connection, because you're just like you found that from just one source, like your partner, right? Which is not really, it's just unsatisfying when there are so many other ways that you can find this like same feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot. And mentioning that, obviously that very relevant word of tantra,
Yeah.
I've noticed in my own life, and I guess I could do some personal sharing.
Hmm.
And thank you for sharing, obviously, um, beforehand. So
Hmm.
tantra, I remember, I guess when I was younger, I
Hmm.
heard the word in passing. You know
Yeah.
how that happens, right? You hear a word, and it kind of seeps in, you know, into your
Yeah.
vocabulary, right?
Yeah.
Gets in there.
Yeah.
And I remember I loved Barnes and Noble, the
Mhm.
bookstore, and I would go there sometimes aimlessly, right? Or like pet stores aimlessly, and just I'm here. I enjoy being here as opposed to anywhere else right now.
Mhm.
Um, and I would go there, and I remember there was a book, and I did find a book that was on Tantra. It said Tantra on it,
Mhm.
and it had a beautiful diagram. And I ended up putting it down and not reading it. And I held the intention for a little bit to read it. But I did kind of study, I guess, in the way that with the holding the kind of idea in my heart in
Mhm.
combination with this beautiful cover. And it was a beautiful red and white, and I think some other colors in there, like a kind of ochre. And it was very much a circle, like a wheel, and then kind of like a kind of snowflakey, flower petally, you
Mhm.
know, handprint of God, kind of idea in front of this cover. And it was very much clearly just about Tantra. bold letters, Tantra, Tantra. So I remember in that way that there is a deepening of spirit in that, and that the whole thing, that whole experience was obviously just about Tantra. So to me, if you go, I pray that kind of experience for people that are in need of it, that are, to put it kind of simply, in that way, because that didn't involve anything except kind of just allowing the reverberation and or resonance with just Tantra as it is, as a individual, as a human being.
Yeah.
So in that way, I mean, I guess that prayer is that, because we can go into details and go into the book, and and can kind of get into a place of all kinds of, maybe we could say, confusion again, right? We're not meant to be confused beings, but basically being at that place where you kind of allow the experience, and when you allow rather than anything else, you end up coming into alignment of with authenticity, and Tantra in that way is ultimately about authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Going
Yeah.
into a kind of definition of Tantra,
Mm-hmm.
after sharing that personal, simple but necessary personal experience. Um, so Tantra, by definition, if we accept that we as human beings have a capacity for sexuality, uh, and procreation, and the exploration of it in that way,
Mm-hmm.
and then basically, that there's a profundity that we are to us, that we could say is mysterious but is real, and you could kind of call that bare bones of Tantra on an intellectual plane.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then for me, I guess I'll share one more personal thing and then hand it over to you again, which is lovely. It's fun,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and hopeful. It's good. This is helping people. It's necessary information. But I guess one thing is to say is, like, knowing that Tantra is not a bad thing. You're not a bad person. You having unpredictable sexual experiences is not bad. It's good, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for me, going off of that, it's particularly the last statement. That's actually how my personal experience with Tantra physically, in my own self as a sexual being, um, was experienced. I
Mm-hmm.
had sex, I guess, and I guess had known about Tantra, but I didn't really know like steps to it, reading books on it. But I
Mm-hmm.
started to get a sense that I was kind of like, I kind of stepped into it. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And during this sexual intercourse, I was very much being my authentic self, and I noticed that a kind of fervor, but also a very much kind of like a sincere gentleness was kind of like pervading me
Mm-hmm.
in that way. And obviously, that aspect of myself of meeting my needs wasn't like, it didn't like disappear, in that sense, right? In the sense that that's kind of like at the core of sexuality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meeting your need, right? So to me, and then that ended up becoming a tantric experience. Um, and basically, tantra in that way is something that leads to more, what we know for a fact is good, which we could say, we could say pure consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
The tie in all of our minds collectively is that tantra is something that can lead us properly to nirvana.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like the universal consciousness, the God consciousness, collective consciousness. So like you can feel all that because it's just this explosion of like the universe, like yeah, the universe is inside us, and then like joining with a partner, it's like this explosion of bliss. That's why people just have this like universe experiences. They're just can feel and sense and the whole universe, right? And connect to everything around them because that's what it is. Um, and then also an interesting point, like it's a return back to love, actually, like to the heart, and it should be. So it shouldn't be just like fucking around, just satisfying, your needs, like bodily, sexual needs. Like, yeah, that's that's the basic area. Like that's like, where you start. But then when you go deeper, like, it's about love and the path back to love, back to the
Yeah.
heart,
Yeah.
um, and like back to God, back to the divine.
Yes.
Yeah. And then also you discover that your partners, it's not just anybody, like anyone that you connect to, like in the sexual way, that you're attracted to, like they actually play like a really significant role, like in this life or even in the past life, So I've discovered that, like they're like past husbands, past wives, like past partners, past spouses. And if that life was kind of tragic, or like something unresolved, like that's why you get like obstacles and barriers in this life as well, because it's just leading back to that, and it needs to be overcome, like with love, the return back to love, um, yeah, and like back to unity. So that's what I found from personal experience. And so I don't know if you want to add anything to this, but then I did want to touch on the shame about sexuality. So I don't know if you want to say anything before then.
Yeah. I mean, in that way that, I mean, I think, on a serious level, I mean, as a Reiki master healer, we I guess would eventually have to understand certain things in order for Tantra to move towards where it's meant to become and
Mm-hmm.
stay, as a kind of as a species.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, um, yeah, I mean, my own understanding, like I said, the core of it, just like
Yeah.
how we are meant to be outside of sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
So how we're meant to be outside of sexuality and also in sexuality is authentic.
Yeah. Honest and truthful. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we're meant to be authentic in that way, then basically you really it what it does is takes away all these options.
Mm-hmm.
So then basically what kind of happens in that way is your path of growthlessness, or what would not be germane to growth,
Mm-hmm.
which we can kind of say, like we know in psychology, is put into text and it's objective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Self-hate, self-denial. Self-denial is a good kind of general phrase to use,
Yeah.
for what would be the path of growthlessness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Sorry. I wanted to say, like, because like the honesty and truthfulness that comes, like, I mean, that's like on many levels, because like you're naked, right? And like you're just bare, like you have nothing to hide, like you're not hiding yourself under clothes, right? That's sexuality, like you're just exposing yourself fully to that, to your partner, right? So it's just, you can't hide, like it's just there, it's just all there, all of you is there, like fully raw naked, right?
yeah,
So um and you can't hide the truth about yourself, it's just all there. But it really should be like on all levels, like being completely like honest and transparent, and that's when you're able to like reach that heart space, like when you are truthful and honest, first of all with yourself, and then with your partner as well, like naked, like
yeah,
vulnerable, because like it exposes a lot of vulnerability. You put yourself in a vulnerable position, right? But that's the whole beauty of it, because you're vulnerable with yourself and with your partner, and there's a lot of trust. So and this, like, then I mean the problems arise when this is like, when the trust is violated, broken, and then we get all kinds of like traumas and violations, right? But ideally it should be about trust, like fully trusting yourself and with your partner in that like sacred space, holiness and purity. That's what you're after.
yeah. I mean the willingness, like I said, yeah, the willingness to grow. So
Yeah.
giving in to the natural, like if we talk about in puberty, I mean, like when there's that yeah, when there's like that natural kind of like exploration of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, and in that way that is ultimately, we could even say like a definition, of authentic,
Mm-hmm.
guaranteed meant to be, no matter what, you
Yeah.
know, and in that way that's for everybody in that way, so to speak, right? Puberty, the experience of puberty, is a
Mm-hmm.
given, like literally like given from God. It's like here. Um, so in that way, I mean, kind of going with the flow of that, I mean, understanding that if our first initial kind of like the ignition of our system, so to speak, of procreation, being puberty, is innocent in
Mm-hmm.
itself, and is something that is based in that natural kind of authentic manner,
Mm-hmm.
then basically then from there, I mean, if we understand we're the same being, so there's kind of a healing in that, we could say, a restorative reminder that would certainly obviously could induce tantra, or we could say in that way, induce, is that the right word, set into motion, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, for me, tantra was a naturally arising kind of experience that I'm sure I'm capable of, uh
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Um.
yeah, hold on one
Mhm.
second. So to
Yeah.
me, I guess the main thing with that, and we should, I guess we could talk about shame, I guess, if you want to also, but tantra in that way, like that it's you in the experience, right? That it's you, and the thing is, you want all of you to be in the room. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, like you feel like there's parts of you that want to be outside of the room. Like there's one of them that wants to be like under your parents' bed. There's part of you that wants to be in the McDonald's with like a business suit on or something. Like there's part of you that wants to be just outside of the door,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you
Mm-hmm.
want that to end, to use a very clear kind of pointed word. And if we understand that that ending is not self-denial, is not self-hate, it's self-love, self-acceptance, and growth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Allow, because your body, we're only in one vantage point,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
an individual. So when you're practicing sexuality, generally, even if you anything, it could be fantasizing, it could be sensuality with yourself, with another person, anything. Okay, all of it, right? Is that what I'm saying? That kind of perspective of allowing the dissociation or kind of the segregation of yourself to begin to end, because there's only one of you, and you
Mm-hmm.
want all of your parts, so to speak, to go, we're all in this experience, and this
Exactly.
experience happens to be a sexual one.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like integrated, and that's where healing comes in, because if your parts are disconnected or out, if you're traumatized, you need to call in your parts, like of your soul, and bring them back, into your body to be embodied. And it's also like with sexuality, like your partner and like this whole experience, it should be like a full body yes, right? That's another thing that people have issues with, right? Like selecting partners, and like being with a partner that's like just for the sake of it or for like different reasons, but it's not a full body yes. And then if it's not a full body yes, then your parts get, like your soul gets fragmented, right? Because it gets split, because not all of you, like what you were saying, like not all of you is agreeing to this experience. So it's like, it's
Ah,
really,
that's right. That's
yeah,
what it is. Yes.
yeah, it's really important
Yeah,
to like
yeah,
get
yeah. Sorry to
all
interrupt.
of
Yeah,
to all of you to agree to it. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
100% nail on the head.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I mean, I'm a Leo, and I have to say something about that, right? That truth you said.
Really? I'm a Gemini.
Oh,
That's awesome. Okay, good.
yeah. So okay, so I guess being a Leo, if we understand that, I mean, my planet is the sun, and I guess, I mean, that's a light aspect to it. But I mean, in that way that we're all meant to shine, right? And the
Yeah.
way to truly do that, if you think about shining is more of a being,
Hmm.
right? Than even we could say like a becoming, right? So the only way to really do that is that integration.
Hmm. Yeah.
And by way of self-love, there's a gravity that happens in your soul that pulls these parts
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
you know, to yourself, to your core. So it kind of comes back to here, and
That's
kind of, you get to go into kind of a I guess to me it's more of taking yourself more seriously,
mm,
to me in that way. And yeah, that if there's only one of you, throughout your whole life, then that's the most appropriate thing.
hmm that's so beautiful. I love that. Like, and then you're talking about like solar plexus as well. Your inner sun, your confidence, your self-esteem, your self-worth. With the Leo. You know, I was just suntanning like for half the day today, and I just felt the sun like just so beautiful. Like it's just the beginning of March right now, but like it was so strong, and I was connecting. I was just feeling the sun loving me, like loving my soul, loving my heart. And it was just such a beautiful experience. Like I just felt like the sun was making love to me, like with the warmth and just with the light. I was like letting like the light energy just like go on my skin and like penetrate me and like heal me, because like the heliotherapy is so important, right? So um the sun is the source of life. Like without the sun, the trees wouldn't grow and nothing, plants, we wouldn't be here. Like we need the sun. And like light therapy is so important. It's the rainbow. Like um the sun allows us to receive like the rainbow of colors, like through the prism, right? So and I also wanted to bring up like the Garden of Eden, because that's my company name. That's what I do. That's what I was given from the divine to do this, like the Garden of Eden, House of Healing.
Yeah.
And it just goes back to like the Garden of Eden, which is like Adam and Eve, right? They were naked in the garden, right? And they had no shame, right? So when they were connected with the divine, but like when kind of the downfall happened, they realized that they were naked. So they felt like they needed to start to cover themselves and hide themselves, right?
Yep.
But when we're with the divine, we're in that purity, in that innocence, like we're in that honesty and trust, transparency, authenticity, right? As we are with our partner, like again, we're recreating this like Adam and Eve story, right? Like with being naked, in this intimacy of like sexuality, in that relationship. So it's interesting how we want to go back to the Garden of Eden, which is this like purity and the connection and oneness.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Yes. I mean, in that way that, I mean, I guess I consider myself a little bit more, maybe, I guess, well, I was going to say from the perspective of healing.
mhm.
It's kind of can be kind of difficult to kind of weigh, but I was going to say I consider myself a little bit more on the heavy-handed side sexually, I guess, or maybe sensually is the right word. I guess if you saw me dance, you would be like, yeah, you're a little bit more
What do
lean
you
in.
mean, more sensual than
Well, yeah,
others, or?
I mean, if you put it kind of, I think an interesting thing, and this would help kind of dispel shame. Actually, this kind of self-awareness of
Mhm.
where you're spectruming, right?
Yeah.
In the sense that it could reveal hidden wounds, or the wound of shame in
Hmm.
itself, which really we could say can only ever ultimately be the healing of it can only ever ultimately be realized through your own self.
Hmm.
But I was going to say, I mean, like in the spectrum, I feel that I fall, closer towards the higher end,
Of
honestly,
sensuality.
as Mr. Leo. Yeah, of sensuality.
Yeah.
I think about it a lot, and I'm also okay while I'm thinking about it a lot. And
Yeah.
I don't, yeah. So to me, I mean, I'm still in that place of functioning. It doesn't become an addiction, and I absolutely love it, and I know how to give into it properly. And
Uh-huh.
I also, I don't really have that. Yeah, I don't really have that kind of thing in myself. I mean, to me, yeah, if you think about sexuality, I mean, obviously, what's a good next word is freedom.
Hmm. Yeah.
in that sense that we're meant to be, free, and that we can't not be sexual. So
Yeah.
sexual freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sensuality is so important, because even babies, like when they're not touched, they feel not loved, and they even die.
Yes.
So, like they need touch in order to feel love, right? So, like I would just really bond with my son really well. I would have like a lot, like when he was a baby, and even now, as much as I can, like a lot of skin to skin contact, like, and he develops so healthy through that. And I'm so glad that I had this knowledge, like, like I was reminded of it by someone. I intuitively also knew it because, I'm also a very affectionate person. I love hugs. You know, Plenty of hugs and a lot of affection, things like that. So a lot of connection, so like intuitively, I also knew that, but it was like reinforced by other people. So, yeah, so I gave him a lot of affection. So we've always considered that very important, like a lot of hugs and kisses, things like that. So, um,
Yes.
yeah, so we all need that. And some people just live without it. Like I've heard that, like even when some people, like back in the older generations, when they got married, they didn't even know how to hug their wife, their spouse, or they didn't know how to have this. Or like some people even come to me like as clients, they want to know, like they're getting married and they don't know how to kiss, or how to touch their future wife or partner. So they they're coming to me to, like, in some cultures, like maybe in the Middle Eastern cultures, they grow up like without, these, like this knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So we can consider ourselves lucky that we were given this freedom of affection and of connection, that we know, like, the wisdom and the importance of like the nourishing touch, with a partner, with others, and then for ourselves, dancing, things like that we were describing, and like thinking about sensuality, thinking about touch and our body being embodied. So, because that's what connects us, like that's what brings us, back to our body. We can like float on clouds and
Hmm.
use or just get into the mental space, and this is where people disconnect, even
Yeah.
partners, like marriages, because the man is like, or the woman too, like too logical, too much in their
Yeah.
headspace, mentally
Yeah.
like absorbed, and then they can't connect to their partner because they're
Yeah.
just, it's difficult for them to get into the sensuality, sexuality, heart space. So this is where, a lot of people do, need the healing in that, or ask for support, to lead them back, like in harmony, that to the sexuality that they want to enjoy with their partner.
Hmm. Yeah. I think of like well, I mean, I certainly agree with you. In that way that there's the book that I wrote called The Reform of the Education System
Yeah.
has in the message, I have three truths in it. The first one is the universal motto, which is whatever is conducive for joy should be found out, uh, basically found out, what is it? Implemented, amplified, maintained, and sustained
Mm,
as foundational, right? Whatever
mm,
is conducive for joy, and then what is not should be found out and removed as
mhm,
least condemnatorily / pessimistically as possible through the light of awareness, positive action, and self love for the well being of all. So that's the universal motto, which you can understand is, like I said, the first word is it's universal. And then the
mhm,
foundational truth is all beings deserve to be happy and not suffer needlessly. And then
mhm,
the other one that's kind of irrelevant for this talk is the teacher's truth, which is the student's experience is always the number one priority. But so the first two are applicable to this kind of topic.
mhm,
So the foundational truth that all beings deserve to be happy and not suffer needlessly. So in
mhm,
that way that we, right, that's us. So in that way, that's a very healthy kind of thing to have, kind of in your system, that perspective.
mhm,
Um, And then basically, so from there, then basically, we're able to have a more kind of general understanding of, I guess you could say, what it takes to be successful, at this with this kind of stuff. Because if we understand that really with all of this talk, we're that's kind of like our, even though we didn't say it yet, that's really what we're after, is true, like succeeding, right? It's kind of like,
Yeah.
right? So in that way, I guess, and I guess we could switch to kind of like relationships as a topic, because we've been kind of talking a lot about sexuality. Um,
Yeah.
but in that way, I mean, obviously understanding that another thing about that would help heal shame is knowing that there's different kind of levels to the deepness of relationships, and all of them are appropriate. So meaning that if you have the smallest kind of, the most shallow relationship, so to speak, because I mean, I guess you could say language kind of might fail at that, because you can see a person and smile at them on the bus, and it's like kind of in a relationship,
Bye-bye.
not actually anything.
Bye-bye.
Right? It's kind of like, it's like a pet, but you're kind of like, this is great.
Hi, how are you? How's your day?
No words at all.
Okay.
And you could even feel like, if I intended to even talk to this person, it's be like the most thing of all time. Right? It's so kind of like, smile.
Yeah.
It's the smile lady on the bus that I'll remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess in that kind of way, how does that relinquish shame? Knowing that it's okay for us to have and manage all of our relationships, and as we do that, the kind of, we are moving towards consciousness, and it's inevitable that shame begins to unravel, and we begin to heal as that movement happens, because you can't be doing one and not the other one at the same time. As you raise the vibration, you're also simultaneously growing, and that growth entails the relinquishing of shame. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed my son being taught shame a lot because, when we were living in Bali, like back then, this was like before COVID, like it used to be kind of normal, like for kids to like run around naked, like around your yard, even, even outside or at home. Like, a lot of people did it. Like maybe it was like the alternative vibe more,
Yeah.
like the kind of more like back to nature vibe. But
Yes.
it's like much less now. But back then, like when he was little, like he would just do that, or like just in his nappy, like diaper, things like that.
Yes.
So and even until like we lived there until he was like 8, he wasn't even, he didn't even wear a t-shirt, just like shorts, and just like so free, like a Mowgli in the jungle, or Tarzan, that kind of thing. So
Yes.
barefoot, so we came here, he was still like to Europe, he was still trying to walk like barefoot because he wasn't even used to wearing shoes, at like 8 years old or 9. So so he had that freedom. But like I learned, like I saw that how he was like taught shame, right? Like, oh, like Eden, don't like, like just protect, which is right, like protect your private areas, don't show, or like, yeah, don't show yourself, oh, you're naked, like you cover up, like, so he was taught that. And of course, like we have to be taught that because like we live in a society where, we wear clothes, and we go to places and offices and work and things like that. Of course, like that's just the norm. But we do need to remember like this, because like what do we crave? Like we crave the sexuality, which is being naked, which is like this huge like intimate exposure, to a partner, right? So but yeah, like we're taught this, we're taught, yeah, this is shame. And like, of course, like I grew up with it as well. I know you have some examples or stories as well that you want to share, but like I remember very clearly like being taught shame and like hiding and things like that. And it's, yeah, and then you have to like break through it because that's fear. It's like very, you get into fear like in your lower in your lower chakra, right? And instead of trust, you become scared, right? Like, so you're introduced to fear, which is, you know, it's hindering, right? So then you have to break out of that later. So, yeah. Do you have any stories around that, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, in that way, I mean, obviously, no one is meant. If we go back to the foundational truth, all beings are meant to be happy,
Mm-hmm.
not suffer needlessly, which includes your son, right? So, in that way, shame, I mean, I guess in that way is certainly we could say, even say like one of the top, maybe five really up there for kind of if you were going to pick specific terms of what would be kind of like an enemy of that foundational truth.
Mm-hmm.
In that way that we could say, I'll say, says Mr. Leo, very kind of fiery and direct. Um, it goes against God's will in that way, which is why it blocks the solar plexus chakra, because our chakras are meant to be happy. They're meant to be open, right?
Yeah.
Active.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they're progressive, right? So they're
Mm-hmm.
not meant to bear any, they're meant to function, flow, like you mentioned with
Yeah.
like with obviously Reiki, helps with that guaranteed.
Yeah. Opening, clearing
Um,
chakras. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so in that way, that shame, in that way, that how is that going against God's will? We're meant to be. God obviously is. We could say what we might know. What we can say as a species is God is like giving us a thumbs up every day, so to speak, and like I created you. You're meant to be there, and the laws of the universe in which you exist in, so to speak, and those laws, or that law, we could just generally say is free will, free choice, which
Mm-hmm.
is your what in that way. Shame is going against that. It wants to kind of pull
Yeah.
at, right, not so when
Right.
you want God obviously wants us to be fully embraced by him and embrace life in ourselves. So
Mm-hmm.
in that way, that shame is like a kind of like a you know a juxtaposed to that.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, I mean,
Barrier wall. Yeah.
it's an objective truth. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in context of your son, without being inappropriate or mentioning anything kind of personal or whatever,
Yeah.
I would say, really what it is, and I bet you're a wonderful mom, and really what it is allowing your attention, your awareness to be more focused. And in that focus, it translates as a special kind of love that can start to break down shame. And as a
Mm-hmm.
parent, that's actually is our job, literally. So, I mean, in that way, I will give some instruction on that, and in context of a developing human being and all of the rest of their life,
Mm-hmm.
that for them to be able to be honest enough, we could say honest. So it's like honest in its total, or like what we would prefer is like both hands, like wide open. And then I go
Mm-hmm.
honest enough, right? So the enough is like tiny
Yeah.
bit. And then as soon as you would do that enough part and you get to that part and it goes click in your parent's head or in an adult's head, in a responsible being's head other than yourself,
Mm-hmm.
something happens in them where they start to kind of subconsciously or consciously can start to generate a frequency that is healing, that can be healing and remove healing to your solar plexus and start to break down the shame.
Yeah.
So it takes that kind of honesty. So like, if anyone's kind of child is saying, well, to their parent, and they're honest, they're saying, I feel this way. I this is where I'm at with this. I understand that you're a different person, that I'm this person, and that,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, to allow that to kind of come out, that truth, that honesty, and then that hopefully respectful gaze and response is what can start to, in our subconscious mind, end shame, because the subconscious goes, okay, I know I just told my parent or whoever thus and so the truth. Okay, I know that was the truth, and
Mm-hmm.
now I'm seeing that I'm getting a positive enough result Therefore, shame, it becomes like it's like almost like an item that you're in like a universe where the item has to be in a compartment to stick around, and there's no place that it fits,
Mhm.
and then it starts to disappear. That's what
Yeah.
it's like. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
it doesn't have any function
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, so that is completely God's will, because you're meant to be happy and not suffer needlessly. And we understand that true happiness is meant to be a deepening. We're supposed to, it's a fullness. So
Mhm.
that fullness, what does that fullness mean? Well, it's a completeness. So what does that mean? That nothing is really excluded from it. So
Mhm.
that means that you're not in a place of, I am now trying to avoid sadness,
Mhm.
sorrow. That's not true happiness. That's not the way to true
Yeah.
happiness.
Exactly.
In the context of sexuality,
Mhm.
there's the ticket. Allowing that prayer to be answered in you. Don't let yourself succumb to the fear of sadness and your emotional body, your sacral chakra, which is below the solar plexus chakra. So the sacral or the solar plexus chakra is up here above the belly button. Sacral chakra is down here below the belly button, and the root chakra is at the bottom. And then
Mhm.
this obviously this is the heart chakra, throat, third eye chakra, and crown chakra.
Mhm.
So sorry. Yeah. So
It's okay. Mhm.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah. And no, just to lead, and like I'm so glad for Asia, and like Reiki, we were taught this from the Japanese.
yeah.
Like it was only rediscovered in Japan. Like the Egyptians had Reiki before, so it's like
I'm gonna be back in 1 second, not to interrupt, but
yeah,
please share about Asia, and I'll be back. Sorry.
yeah. Okay.
You can keep talking.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
okay, okay. I got you. Okay, so no, like I want you to be back. Yeah, so anyway, I'm very glad that I got to spend time in Asia, in Japan and in Korea as well, because you can go to the spa, like baths, and it's all nude. So the women are all nude together. You just go in there, all ages, young, old, in between, all bathing in like sodium bicarbonate bath, or yeah, different temperatures of water, hot, warm, cool, scrubbing themselves with like a body scrub, bathing, just, and they do this on a regular basis, like once a week. Just getting like glowing skin. That's how they look young, so old, like, with like old age, because they're just scrubbing themselves all the time, like circulating this energy. And like the heart circulation, blood circulation, lymph, getting the lymph circulating as well. And it's all done in the nude. Like, so you walk in, you're completely naked. Everyone else is naked as well. The women, the men too, separately. Um, in Bali, in Indonesia, you go to rivers and everyone's fully naked there in the rivers, bathing in nature. Like kids, grandmas, like old men, women, everyone, usually separate, man and woman, but they're just there bathing in the river, so it's just very nice to see. It's very innocent and pure, and they think nothing of it. They're just laughing, having a good time, and that's divine connection. It's one of them. Of course, they go to temples as well, all covered up, so that's another experience of like sacred space, and in that way. Yeah, we have like 6 minutes. But yeah, so like I enjoyed that, like living in Asia like this, and seeing this, like really being in touch with the feminine side, like with the creative side, with their body, and experiencing this like purity. So yeah.
Yeah, pure. I mean, purity is a
Yeah,
super. I
yeah.
think this is a super important point in context of sexuality.
Hmm.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
If we understand that we're meant to be, like I said, the foundational truth are meant to be happy and not suffer needlessly.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't we prefer to be pure,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in that way, if we understand that purity is something that is more toward, to me, it's more about the simple than
Mm-hmm.
anything else. But in
Exactly.
that way, like if you think of, I mean, this is kind of might make you feel shitty, but like, because if you think of like an example of yourself where you chose something that wasn't as impure, to be honest with yourself, which is, a good thing, being honest with yourself. And it already happened either way, and I don't need to know it, but I'm going to say it. So in that way, like I think of like if someone was in high school and they chose something that was, I chose to go over to this table, and even though my friend was feeling lonely, I didn't sit with my friend and kind of chatted with these people and blah, 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 blah. So that kind of way, if we understand the simple choice is the pure one in that way, but it can take boldness and courage
Mm-hmm.
in that way. And I think of like on a very serious level, like these historical figures like Jesus Christ and Mother Mary,
Mm-hmm.
who obviously are linked inextricably forever to, uh,
Agree.
purity.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And in that way, I mean, talking about what a beautiful kind of very, very appropriate, even to say practical, to not make it
Mm-hmm.
into anything else.
Mm-hmm.
That example of people bathing
Mm-hmm.
in nature,
Yeah.
it's a necessity for our body. But in that way, I mean, you can take that and kind of allow yourself to maybe have a little bit of a kind of mental focus, just even
Mm-hmm.
just enough, right? So that when you're in the water, when you're going through it, instead of just being kind of like, I'm just here and it's my body, I'm kind of washing myself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one thing to be empty and to just be there, right? And you're washing yourself and you're succeeding, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's another thing to know that your mind, right, is there with you, right, and your body. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to now participate in this potential group activity, like with people that we don't know who could be here, but I'm choosing to be here, and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to probably be great, right? So in
Yeah.
that way, there's nothing wrong, and it doesn't really have to be anything more than this, but allow yourself to kind of simply hold this place in your mind while you're doing that, around it, of purification, of kind
Yeah.
of, I deserve to be clean, was
Mm-hmm.
really what the mantra or the kind of affirmation would be. I deserve to be clean.
Mm-hmm.
Allowing yourself to kind of, if allow that to kind of be more of a resting, right? So it's like when we're bathing, we're not particularly like a frog slash bird like flying around,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you see a bird coming down to a bird bath, right? They go like,
Yeah. Exactly.
so we're not really like that. We're more of a sedentary thing.
Mm-hmm.
So then if you're doing that and you're bathing, and then you're in that place where you kind of are allowing yourself to, you're allowing all of your levels to come together. So what I mean is that you're physically cleaning yourself appropriately,
Yeah.
beautifully, right, in the nature,
Yeah.
safely, I pray, obviously, and with other people.
Yeah.
Why not just make it on all of the levels, or whatever you would say, right? So that your entire being, so really what would be left out potentially would be like your mind. So your
Yeah.
mind, instead of just letting your mind being like, it gets to fly a kite, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just letting it be kind of like, I deserve to be clean. And
Creating sacred space.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really, it's not anything else.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
the experience is done. So then when you're done bathing yourself physically, now we're done. That
Mm-hmm.
means our mind is done with the I deserve to be clean
Yeah.
thing.
So yeah, sex is not dirty; it's clean. It should be clean. Creating sacred space for it, and with your partner as well. Yeah. So and it should be a clean relationship, like on a, same level, like you mating with a partner that's like on the same level as you. Do you want to talk about like how people can work with us, because we're almost on the top of the hour? So there's links below, right? You can work with us. You can get us as your coach, and if you're having issues like
Yeah.
this or anywhere, if you need questions or answered or support, like on your life journey, on your sexual journey, on your relationship journey, just reach out and contact us, and we'll be happy to help and support you, right?
Yes, of course.
For
I mean,
me.
yeah. So we both have our links. If you go to the description, my link is first. It's my Instagram.
Hmm.
Wonderful content on there. All kinds of different topics.
Yeah.
So a bunch of different videos like harnessing creativity,
Hmm.
how Reiki is for everyone, finding your own voice, goals and creation. That's a really cool one.
Hmm.
So those are examples. Dealing with sorrow is one. Um, so all of those are examples of my Instagram videos, and then I have my Facebook and my what else? Books, my Amazon books as of right now, and hopefully I'm getting a publisher soon. And my music on SoundCloud. And then you can
Hmm.
message me on Instagram or Facebook or email. And you can actually probably find my phone number on some of that stuff, which give me a call, give me a text. And I work one-on-one with people doing Reiki and or Reiki classes and or spiritual guidance, which are three distinct separate things I do one-on-one. And then in groups, I do satsang, group meditation, and I know the basics of Tai Chi Qigong and Yoga Asana. And I have tons of content. And I'm a
Hmm.
great guy. And so, what
Awesome.
about you?
Wonderful. Awesome. You want to do 1 hour or more?
Well, we can. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, we can. If you want to, yeah. But I was going to say certainly before. I guess if you want to share your um, information for your business, because her link is after mine on the description. Her website, Miss Lenka Graner HMD, holistic medicine. I don't know what the D stands for, but it's wonderful.
Doctor.
Doctor.
That's it.
Doctors in medicine. Hope you've been enjoying this time with us. I don't know how much longer. I mean, it's up to you, honestly. If you want, I mean, if you wanted to do, a little bit longer, we can. I'm glad that we got an hour of it in. But I
Yeah.
was going to say, why don't you share your website or how people can access you and or what's it about now, no
Yeah,
matter what.
well, in the link I have a description. So, yeah, or then you can schedule a call with me, and then we can discuss your particular issue or whatever you need support with, and then you can see how you can work with me. Like I offer a 3 month program, which is like sessions once weekly. They're like 60 to 90 minutes long, and yeah, so we address everything. So it can be like long standing as well if you need to go really deep into things or you need support for like a long term 3 months 6 months or a year. So it's really nice to get that support, and some people do need that, or if you need like a just shorter amount of time, like yeah, like if you're struggling with a partnership or something like that, if you just need like faster fix or quicker fix. So I just do a lot of holistic healing, so very natural techniques, how to connect with the mind, body, and soul back to the heart. And yeah, very natural techniques. So like no medication or any pharmaceuticals or anything, just like very natural, very, very easy techniques. And it's like connection. It's about connection. So yeah, of course, like relationship sexuality is about connection. So I will teach you or show you how you can connect with yourself, with me, and then with your partner, or like with who you want. So yeah, it's about a lot about manifestation, but like you need to be in that space inwardly to manifest your outward reality as well. So
Yeah, awesome. Angel blessings, everyone. I guess I'm very
yeah.
uh, affluent in the language of angels. So I guess kind of maybe showing off a little bit, says Mr. Leo. I guess a little bit of kind of, I guess
Yeah.
you would call it prayer. I love prayer. I see prayer as the most important thing in that way. Um, and Reiki as the optimum healing modality that certainly is supportive of all of the good things in that we could ever do. So it's not like it's like an enemy, like based, like I'm better than you, hiya. It's like I'm here and it supports growth, all growth. Um,
Mhm.
So in that way, and I guess my point of that is that it wouldn't have come about if that person, Dr. Mikao Usui, when he was a Buddhist monk, wouldn't have taken that impulse of good naturedness and fasted and prayed for 21 days, and then Reiki wouldn't have been granted to us. We wouldn't have it. So I guess, well, that's a big time prayer that we do that ourselves, right? Just even if it's just enough, just little things, right? Outside of, I guess, maybe getting the groceries, but that's it, right? We need that to do that. So I guess it's a very generally, good prayer is that one. But I guess in context of us both being healers, Archangel Raphael, in that way, we don't have control over other people. But I mean, in that way, the beauty of God is these archangels and angels or what have you aren't going, we can develop a relationship with them, even if it seems like our imagination. So for example, if we're single, so we really want to be in relationship to say, I'm going to imagine, that I'm in a relationship with Archangel Michael, with Archangel Raphael, with Archangel Ariel, who's a female one, Archangel Haniel, who's a female one, right? With Archangel Raziel, who's a masculine one. So in that way, that's okay, right? That you want those angels to like enter you, even if it's super sexual, right? To enter them, and it's super sexual.
Yeah.
Here, right? I got you by the top of the head. In that, it's okay. Like it's not bad, and in that way and it actually is, it's good. I mean, if you take it on we'll go with this, a very human but spiritual level, if you talk about yoga, in that way, yoga means union. So Kriya Yoga is kind of this overall Sanskrit term of this ancient and super important, tradition. So Kriya in Sanskrit means technique and yoga means union. And I basically say how I present it is Kriya Yoga means proper technique to have union with the divine. Okay, so in that way, on a yogic level, if we have latent energies particularly in our lower chakras, or only in our lower chakras, and you do yoga to purify them, there's a reason that certain things happen, certain experiences will happen. You could become, as you're practicing yoga, you could become more erotic, or you could become more subdued, right? So in that way, I think of like kind of the yogic reason, because we're all, that pertains to everybody, all the souls, what I'm talking about right now.
That's wonderful. That's really beautiful.
In this way, if we understand that, if that is pertaining to me right now, even though I may be someone who's obese and can't even practice yoga, or I have limb issues and can't practice it, in that way, I guess that those angels can actually kind of fulfill some of that in this lifetime, in the sense of, and now you would have this kind of cool understanding, right? Because of Dr. Joe being cool. So in that way, I guess that prayer, that intention for goodness would basically be, like Dr. Joe said, I can't control relationships, and in that way, I want to be better off, right? Why not? I want to be better. I want to improve, and allowing that connection with the divine, right, to still happen, right? And you, we talked about shame, but really it's about intimacy, right? That word's not going away, right? If you talk, in therapy, which is ultimately severely serious, right? And is based in respect, which is why it's healing, right? Obviously, all healing, you can't have healing without respect as this foundation, and we all deserve to heal. So in that way, so my point of that is that, like, you allowing that resistance in yourself to basically start to like that defense mechanism thing. So if you know that an angel is incapable of harming you, and you're incapable of harming the angel, but you're still in a conscious recognition of each other, then in that you can start to allow that, I guess you'd call it healing, but that very, very real response, which is what the point of therapy is, to happen. So that's, I guess, a kind of cool thing I'd like to say. And obviously sexuality is something we're not meant to skirt around it. We're meant to fully be a sexual ourself, which is not just a sexual being, it's just us. And so in that way, I guess the whole thing for this is not to be an avoidance of sexuality, I guess, and then to allow that to manifest,
Mm-hmm.
right? That we're kind of in this place of being grounded in ourself, and that those blockages of our lower chakras, of that, right, that kind of running away thing, you know, starts to break down. And, you know, in that way, that's a graceful, gentle thing. And like I said about me being a good guy, and naturally, I guess God gave me that gift of Tantra, unbeknownst to me, even. You know what I mean? I kind of noticed as I was participating in it, obviously consensually, with this other, happened to be a female, very beautiful woman, and that this caressing on her back and her being okay with it, you know, and this kind of thing, and you know, and being able to kind of like move my hand around, and without having to her moving and going like in the middle of it, you know, and me not feeling like we both kind of recognize, you don't have to ask me, Joe, touch me wherever you want, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And basically in that, that's Tantra. But if you understand that, that is what? Gentleness, caressing. So if you notice that, the real thing, if you want to become, I mean, a big word is, people say, especially in North America, I want to become a master, like Pokemon, right? The very best. So if I want to be like a master of Tantra, you understand Tantra is not a sport, and that anything in that way, like we think of sports, like running, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not, it's never that, because the sport is ultimately only you as a person, and it's based in competition. So that's double whammy. It's not a sport. So in that
Exactly.
way, says Mr. Leo, they, you know, I would know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, so I mean, like, so in that way, then basically, it's the like the extreme of it, to be honest, would be like a self violence. If there's a violent energy inside of us, that would be the enemy or the blockage to actually moving into Tantra. That's the word I would use.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah, great. And you know, you can experience these things, like even when you're talking about like somebody who's obese, or like who has like a bodily issue. Sometimes like, it's very much possible to experience these things in the spirit, even if you can't fully participate like in your body, if you have limitations in your body, right, Dr. Joe?
I'm listening. Yes. If you have limitations,
You know, so
yes.
you can actually experience the beautiful bliss and like that joyful state in your spirit. So
Yeah.
yeah, which is your connection to heaven, like you just connecting
Yeah.
with that.
Ah. Yeah, I mean, in that way, I mean, if you think of kind of like in that, that's like kind of a cool analogy. I think of like an orgasm, at least for a man, you know, like, to be kind of, I don't know, brutally honest about it. I mean, the, you know, kind of ejaculation, it goes towards heaven, right? That, so,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, in that way, I mean, that's a simple, right, says Mr.
Right.
Leo, kind of very healthy perspective to have. That, like, even if someone, like on a practical level, people go to work and they come home, and whether they get to have sex or they masturbate, and they eventually get to climax and have an orgasm, and you wake up the next day and it's the weekend, or it's work, or it's a family thing, or whatever. But that experience, just letting yourself know that, and maybe even have a laugh. Oh, look, heaven, right? Instead, instead of it being like a, you know, kind of you know, obtuse experience. And that is a very serious thing, because we're meant, you know how it is, whether I'll go with it serious, that if you know, us having that kind of ritual, repetitive, frequent experience of orgasm,
Yeah.
you know, us being in that place of practicality, that we're taking it into a place of a higher vibration. And
Exactly.
in that way, like I said, the authenticity is still present. You're not denying yourself, but
Mhm.
you're just allowing yourself to have a kind of more lighthearted, kind of comfortable perspective on it. And it's something that like a lot of people would say, I'm going to do it anyways, right? So then why not have it like, yeah, thinking about heaven.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm allowed to give into this kind of like right thing, like during orgasm, right? And then it, you
Yeah.
know, that's how that happens. Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
And it's white and
yeah.
it's milky, cloudy.
Yeah, I mean, it's life, you know? Yeah, I mean, I think of it, I mean, in that way, I mean, ultimately what it is, regardless of our, well, yeah, I mean, ultimately what it is what perpetuates life. That's what it is,
Yeah, exactly.
you know? And you don't have to, like, you know, I'm not in charge of anything but myself, so to speak, I guess, generally. I mean, you don't have to have any perspective or opinion, you know, on it, you know, in that way. I mean, and yeah, you know, but I mean, I guess knowing that there is such a thing as people that exist, that love you,
Yeah.
that care about you, that
Yeah.
have the proper perspective on sexuality, not
Hmm.
just for yourself personally, but for everybody, because I'm one of those people. And I think
Hmm.
knowing that is comforting, right?
Hmm.
So it would be a crossing of a line for me to say, you have to have this opinion, right,
Hmm.
on your own, really anything, right? But I think that that recognition of there being another person who is centered enough in themselves where they can be in that place of kind of heart-centeredness,
Yeah.
um, you know, is a very just kind of good thing for people to see, you know.
Mhm.
But that's the video.
Also beautiful.
Yeah, and that healing is a process, right? Like, for example, like if uh, that it's a lifelong process, that we're not really in control of it, but we can take steps, you know, in that way. And sometimes the steps are paradoxical. The step could be stopping,
Hmm.
and in that stopping, you could actually be, because you're taking yourself seriously, right? Like I mentioned earlier, is self-love.
Hmm.
Taking yourself seriously, you'll notice that when you do that, when that happens upon you,
Hmm.
right? Like if your car won't start, that kind of thing, like a serious, like you need it or something,
Hmm.
right? That
Hmm.
kind of thing, even ultimately, obviously, more logically more serious than that, so to speak, right? I
Hmm.
guess. But doing that, you'll notice in yourself what'll start to happen is stopping might just happen. It's not like I wasn't thinking about stopping, I wasn't trying to meditate. It could just go, we're done,
Hmm.
like that, right?
Yeah.
And and in that, you know, that's now you start to resonate with your own heart chakra, which is where we're meant to be.
Hmm.
There.
Yeah. Exactly. The
Yeah.
union of the divine and earthly. Hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Heaven,
We
heaven, heaven and earth.
go ahead.
The union of heaven and earth in the heart
Absolutely.
space. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned lower chakras, and that implies higher chakras. So
Mhm.
there's three lower chakras in that way, I guess, so to speak, and then I guess the heart would
Mhm.
count as the high. Yeah, the heart is not a count as, it is the heart, and above are the higher chakras. So there's four higher chakras and three lower chakras. The lower chakras um, are our individual self alone. Okay, they have to be there, just like we have to exist, and their job is only that, is only our personal,
Survival,
our
survival
person.
needs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the lower chakras, right? And then the higher chakras, the heart. So basically, you're coming out of that, right? Of it only being about you. And then you
Mhm.
start to resonate with the heart chakra. And that becomes a very, very, maybe the most important experience of all time, I guess, when you start to resonate in that way. And a lot of the times, I mean, not everybody's an author. And so, I mean, I am, so I can put words on that at length. Maybe we could say you're someone who can start to fully or eventually fully resonate with your heart chakra, but you might literally be at a loss, like forever, of trying to communicate anything at all about that
Mhm.
experience, right? And that's, yeah. So then basically, so then the heart chakra, and then if you go into the higher centers, it becomes more subtle and more kind of, I guess, powerful, but your understanding, you start to get into a place where the resonance becomes something where there's something that happens where there's a gravity, like a black hole, that starts to suck you in, and this gravity is of the the relinquishing of ego as
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
as that movement happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing. And then you enter like you're nothing and you become everything at the same time. It's that infinite circle. So you give up yourself and then you have everything. Really beautiful, really hard to do, sometimes really scary. You have to build yourself up to that, but yeah, that's the transition that happens into the universe and into like super consciousness. Yeah, really nice. Enlightenment. Yeah, we really
Oh,
got into this, Joe.
yes.
I can feel the connection. It's really nice and beautiful.
Oh, there's another archangel. Oh, the most
Mm.
appropriate one, I guess, that I didn't even mention yet for the climax at the end. Uh, but there's a yeah for the climax at the end. Yes.
Ah, yeah.
So this archangel for the sign of Taurus,
Mm.
that is the archangel for divine relationships.
Mm.
And this archangel is a feminine one, is a woman one, which makes me want to thank God for making me a man, right? In this lifetime.
Oh.
Yay. So Archangel Shamuel is
Mm.
that archangel for divine relationships. So, I mean, if you think of Taurus, what is Taurus about? Being grounded. So, like the lower chakras, right? I've got my shit together enough that I can have a functional relationship, to put it kind of in some kind of way. And what else? Taurus, I do not care. I'm going to speak the truth like as much as I want. And then
Mm.
also have my house afterwards. Like, right?
Mm.
So like, it's like that's what
Yeah.
because you're the best ever. Like,
I
yeah,
want all my luxuries
that's how
covered. Yeah.
yes. So I mean, yeah, and so in that way, I mean, basically, but the thing about that is we understand that that's preferable for everybody, right? They're an earth sign. They're practical. Earth signs are literally
Mhm.
that's kind of what earth sign is. It's like practical, and then what is practical? Well, practical means it's for everybody, right? Like the
Mhm.
earth. We're all on it, right? It's like after we make sure that we have the room key, then we're going to go to Starbucks and pick all our sodas that are preferential, right?
Mhm.
So like in that kind of way.
Yeah.
So I
Very
mean,
practical. Yeah.
yeah, and that and,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, God certainly loves everyone in that way. Like God, wants us to make sure we have the room key before we go down to Starbucks, right? You know what I mean? So to the door to
Yeah. Solid.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, in that way. I mean, and I can certainly say relationships are meant to be solid. That's the right,
Mhm.
the right
That's true.
word. Yeah.
Yeah. True. True.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yay.
Sacred space. I feel it.
I guess I'll say, do you have anything you want to say? We probably should wrap up. I have
Yeah.
one I could say, but you can go first, and then I'll conclude.
Yeah, definitely. No, no, it's fine. It's just brilliant. It's amazing. Yeah, we can have more. I mean, if there's interest and people want to talk about this or hear about it. I mean, I love, like, this is our theme. This is what we love to talk about and share, right? So, yeah, very nice. It's been a pleasure. Really nice. So, yeah, I think we covered a lot. Um, yeah, there's a lot to digest, and yeah, I'm curious to see the response of people as well, what they have, and how it can link to different, stages that they're in and on their journey. So, yeah, very nice. Yeah, this is a beautiful topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, it reminds me of that you mentioned Buddha and enlightenment, so it's fair for me to say there is a there you are sitting up, but so
Yeah,
there is a
there's my man, my guy.
what is that called? A portrayal of that
Mm.
being who was just shown up there on the wall, called Lord Buddha. We can also further say Siddhartha Gautama, the ascended master.
Yeah, I love him. Okay, go on.
So there's a depiction and or portrayal of that being, Lord Buddha, where he's laying on his side.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Yeah.
has his hands kind of like this, and his
The
feet.
reclining Buddha.
Yeah, the
Yeah, the
reclining.
reclining Buddha.
So in that
Yeah.
way, I guess my great prayer would be that kind of whatever that is, that portrayal is representing,
Mm-hmm.
is for everybody,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm into that.
Amen.
Ah,
A man and a woman.
I used to say that.
Okay. I'm getting all funny.
Hey, hey, that's great because I've had horrible experiences with women in the past, and the fact that I still had said amen and a woman, and now remembering that I haven't said it in perhaps too long, there's no reason in me for cutting it out of my life because of those asshole women.
They're both important.
I mean, look at that face.
Laughter is the best medicine. There's a laughing Buddha. There's a laughing Buddha. Laughing yoga. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, in that way that, so, I mean, Buddhism, yes, is a thing, it's a religion, but if you understand that, just don't block your own joy. So, for example, if you see an image of Lord Buddha, let yourself have the experience. It's like if you were at an art museum, it's literally the same thing. It's just art that has depicts Lord Buddha, and all it is art.
Yeah.
And if the artist is smart, they might be, you might think they're a whippersnapper. They might pull a Bob Dylan. So when anyone asks them about it, if you ask, you're not, I'm just so you know, the answer is 0. I'm literally, the rule forever is I'm not allowed to give one single iota when asked about the art. It says right there, nothing. So then, or it says Lord Buddha, and then that's it. So all you have is a square, and it's art, and it's of Lord Buddha, and then it says Lord Buddha. So if you were literally at the museum going from one piece of art, which is a cube that's orange, and then a white splishy splosh on a blue background with bird upside down, and it's called Scarecrow X. So you walk by so if you go to the museum,
Yeah.
and then you go to the art, and you're there and you're staring at this art, right? And then you're allowing yourself to have a normal kind of response to the art, right? And you're there and you're like, okay, and you're in that place. Allow yourself. What I'm saying is, don't have this thing that comes up, this film of mind dis, like decay that comes up. And I hope it doesn't come up, so to speak, but allow yourself to simply have the experience fully, and that it's okay. It's okay that there was a powerful being named Lord Buddha Siddhartha Gautama, and that he's an ascended master, and he's an ultimately trusted figure that's a true human, and it was loved everybody. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All I'm saying is literally just allowing yourself to have the experience. That's literally the whole thing I'm saying. So there's nothing else in there. I'm not even saying anything about religion or your future of your life or your soul. God damn it, right? Or even Reiki per se, right? I'm not there to give you a business card or a hug, but let yourself have the experience.
Yeah, be in the present moment. It's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you might notice as you allow, what can happen is you might naturally start to fall into certain kind of proclivities. Is that the right word? In yourself, that would be things that would be good for you, that would be beneficial, like yoga.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
notice that as you that you might learn later on. Hey, that thing that Dr. Joe was talking about, that was like a block between me and Lord Buddha. What ended up being a block between me and my own path of yoga. And now I've been doing yoga for a year, and I realized that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's simple. It's not. It doesn't mean that it's miracles. I mean, are so, says Mr. Leo in his gentle way.
Mm-hmm.
Miracles are so dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, in that way, and that the reality of the situation is that not everything is an instantaneous, right? Like an orgasm, like a burning bush appearing, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
miracle. Ah, don't run away, right? Okay, okay, right?
Yeah.
So not everything is that, right? We could say the whole process of that is just like healing as a process, right? And you go from week to week, and you know giving into that kind of I don't know what that would be, actuality of life, you
Mm-hmm.
know that
Yeah.
that we can't, I guess you could say that we can't make miracles happen, and then eventually that we could say is a necessity, no matter what, just that base practicality to, I guess you could say, properly attaining enlightenment,
Yeah.
because you can't be in a place of running away
Mm-hmm.
when to at all attain enlightenment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to face yourself. So great, wise words. Wise
Yeah.
words.
Anyways, would you like to see my foot again?
No, it's okay. Okay. Yeah.
Anyways, well, this has been lovely. So
Mhm.
check the links: Instagram, Andromeda Joe 811. I consider myself an Andromedan starseed. If you've ever seen the movie E.T., that movie resonates, um, which is
I'm
kind of
not.
a, which is,
No, sorry. I'm Arcturian. Okay. Okay. The ET movie resonates. What?
so the E.T. movie resonates, and I was going to say that's a pun, because the second half of the word resonate is Nate, and well, it's kind of a pun, but the energy of that in the movie, if you see the movie, if you kind of tune in with the scene with the alien, where it's kind of like there and whatever, and he's doing, and yeah, so that kind of resonance starts to become more of like a baby, a very super sensitive, being a baby. The word for that is neonatal. So there's a word for um, the starseed that I am, which is related to that. That's because of my Instagram tag is Andromeda Joe 811. But yeah, so that kind of energy of resonating with that, being a neonatal Andromedan starseed, which
Mhm.
is, Mr. Leo says, very dramatic thing to claim. But yeah, so my Instagram's on there. Please check it out. The links are on there: Facebook, SoundCloud, Amazon, and obviously Instagram with its videos. Message me on Instagram and/or Facebook, email or phone, anytime, day or night. I teach and do healing work one-on-one and in groups, and I'm looking for more work, and I have tons of content. And of course, my friends is on there as well. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. Angel blessings.
Exactly.
All right. Love you.
Love you.
Ah.
Oh.
Oh.